Okay, good evening. I am Angela Lucia Moreno Ruiz. I am a student of the Master Program in Pedagogical Mediation in Learning English, and this is the last part of the activity corresponding to the Resource Development course in Learning English. The idea of this video is to make the presentation on the most relevant topics, findings, and reflections of the different phases of the course, as well as on the relationship between pedagogy, didactics, and development of resources for English language learning. First, I can say that at the beginning of this course, my expectation was very different. But little by little, the idea of what was required to develop was clarified. The proposal as such was the creation of a virtual learning object for which I resort to use the Excel learning platform, and I had to watch tutorials over and over again to understand how to carry out each action within it. Since the virtual object was proposed, I thought about creating a resource to be able to apply it at some point with the 7th grade students who are my assigned groups at the school where I work. And that was how I thought about my students and the themes of the grade that I include feelings and emotions as the subject of the research, in which I followed the sequence in the way I could understand it, and it was organized as follows. Okay, first of all, a welcome slide. One with the objectives of the resource, a presentation to contextualize the subject within the resource, another with vocabulary and adjectives necessary for the development of the proposed activities, another one with interactive reading, another with exercises by using the previously presented vocabulary, another one with a different activity to reinforce social skills, another with a final personal reflection activity, another slide with a conclusion, another with the bibliography, and finally the credits. The process of my resource creation was a bit complex since I'm not very skilled with the technological tools, but I made a lot of effort to carry out the step by step and then understand how to include moving images, how to include an audio or a video, like, or for example, including interactive activities with the respective feedback that initially didn't work as I should, but later adjustments were made taking into account the feedback made by the tutor to improve the appearance and functionality of the resource. At the beginning of the design of my virtual learning object, I wanted to include some of the themes to work with them in the degree and according to the curriculum grades in such a way that it was relatively simple and affordable for the population with which they constantly work. It was then for that reason that I include the topic of feelings and emotions as the central theme of my virtual learning object, since in the light of the theory, it is also important to touch on topics that involve thinking about oneself and among them aspects such as values, attitudes, feelings, and emotions of people. Authors, for example, Feria Marrugo and Zúñiga López from 2016 and Poveda from 2011, who speak of the benefits of using a virtual learning object in the teaching process, also point out its importance for autonomous learning, since it is the same student who is characterized by user decision making, who selects what he wants to view and learn. Thanks to these factors, the direct participation of the student in the processes of search, discovery, and assimilation of the contents to be studied are favored, without ignoring that this type of resources are conventionally attractive for students and strengthen the motivational factor compared to knowledge, an element essential for educational success. When carrying out the implementation of my resource with 7th graders, I found that the vast majority was very pleasant to see a different way of finding the information presented in the class. And it was thus when a space was given to explain what is a virtual learning object and then allows its exploration, which was carried out with a synchronous session through Google Meet platform. And then I gave a space for the respective evaluation of the virtual learning object by using the Google Classroom platform, in which the evaluation instrument was sent as a task within the subject. After the implementation of the resource, I can say that it is possible that my virtual learning object can be reused by other teachers, since it is a very general and easy topic to address, taking into account that if the population and level of linguistic competence of the group with which is going to use. All of the above, as well as the description of the process that was carried out, that I consider wasn't easy at all, since I'm not that technologically skilled, but I have made the effort to do things in the best way and following the parameters set out. Now, when I am talking about to what extent the course contributes to the research process that I am carrying out in my master program, I can say that it can contribute a lot, since in fact the implementation of my project must be done in a virtual way, making adequate use of the ICT resources, being the virtual modality the means forced by the pandemic situation that we are experiencing. Likewise, I can say that in a certain way, the master courses are related to each other to the extent that being teachers, students, we must take use of all those materials, resources, methodologies, etc., that allow us to feed and strengthen our knowledge, not only in the teaching of the foreign language, if not precisely in how to transmit and share the knowledge, mediate by the new information and communication technologies. Learning English through interactive platforms, such as a virtual learning object, is a very productive field that can be taken advantage of in the future, both personally and collaborative, and it is reusable research for other teachers. In this course, an application task with the virtual learning object, it was found that learning through the web implies a lot of responsibility, not only on the part of the student, but also of the teacher or tutor. The benefits can be varied, but only if there is prior planning of the support design and effective support for the activities at the online sessions or asynchronous sessions, the level that are proposed with constant monitoring of progress to identify gaps and make improvements, as well as a permanent assessment and tasks that promote and integrate the development of the 4 communication skills of English will be essential aspects for our students to successfully achieve communicative competence in the English language. It was evidence that the students incorporate some didactic and pedagogical strategies, among which it is worth mentioning role play, collaborative work in carrying out activities at an online and offline level with the respective feedback, with which they potentiate their knowledge related to learning the English language. Students, by having the opportunity to interact in the language when solving a task that require the communicative use of the language to achieve a goal. This task is developed in such a way that the members must negotiate meanings, work autonomously, assume roles within the group, and takes responsibility for their own work. Learning a second language is facilitated when students have the opportunity to participate in interactions in which they must communicate and even negotiate meanings through different activities. Thank you so much. And that's all.